with the SUP season almost over, we are unpacking another big subject that keeps coming up. Now that we have a busy 2022 season behind us, we really need to click that like button and engage in a discussion over some topics. And I really thank you guys. This is a community thing. So let's dive right into it. Inclusiveness in the SUP sport. We have two concepts. We have a concept where everybody can show up to a world championship, no qualification needed. I can show up, I can sign up, I can go next year to the ICF World SUP Championships and become a competitor and possibly also become a world champion, say in the inflatable 40 plus class. And big medal for me. On the other hand, we have another concept, and that concept is qualifications. That's an ISA. Every country is responsible to filter out the best SUP athletes, then do a team and send that team to the World Championships at their location. And those are two vastly different concepts. And they have their advantages and they have their disadvantages. And at the end of the day, I'm thinking only one can prevail. And which one that is, I want to ask some questions about it and engage into a conversation and debate with you guys to see what you think. So now let's look a little bit about the first concept, the one that we've seen over COVID the most since the ISA did not have any world championships, the all-inclusiveness. What's the pros, what's the con? Well, starting with the pros, everybody can participate. I can go, you can go, we can just all show up and we can go paddle there. And that is actually a really great thing, I think, because people are enthusiastic about the SUP sport. We want to drive participation rates. We want to get people excited about racing. So if you have a festival style 4-day SUP World Championship and bring everybody in, kids, adults, ages, doesn't matter, paddle on inflatables, every class gets a medal, everybody is excited, everybody's happy, right? So now what's the problem with that? Well, I do think that number one, it can also become a little bit too much. And the too much part that I think is number one, from an organizer point of view, having 500 people racing and showing up for a weekend is just a gargantuous logistical task. You have to keep track of so many people, you have to keep track of so many board classes. Then the next thing I'm wondering is, does it make sense to have a world champion in every single age group and in every single board class? Do we need a 50-year-old plus world champion on inflatable tech race and a 40-year-old plus female world champion inflatable sprint? That is something actually that I don't want to answer or want to say an opinion on it. That is up to you guys. That's up to the organizer, whether this is something that we should have, whether this is something that is needed. And that is really a good question. Then the next question is, we're going to compare this a little bit to a marathon. The spectrum of people's abilities to compete ranges from like the hobby runner to the professional marathon runner, which is all cool, of course, you know. The question is that what a world championship is about? Is a single marathon world championship everybody goes, or is there some certain cutoffs? I don't know that. The same thing with the Olympics. Marathon at the Olympics, can anybody show up that runs a marathon in 7 hours against the guy who runs it in just about 3 hours? Is there a cutoff there? I don't really know. And we're going to have to ask ourselves, should we have some sort of a cutoff somewhere amongst the SUP athletes that you need to meet a certain threshold in order to go to a higher level of competition? That is really the question that we're going to have to ask ourselves. But before we kind of try to come and marry things up, we're going to have to look at the polar opposite. We have the ISA concept. countries are responsible to sift out the best and then send them as a team to the ISA SUP World Championships. So that's kind of like a little bit of a more common scenario, I want to say, for most athletic sports and competitive sports. But in the past, we have also seen, and that is a little bit more the negative side we're going to start here with. The negative side is that not every country is in agreement over SUP. We've seen just in a recent history that the British had their disagreement cost some valuable athletes to not participate in Puerto Rico. That leads to animosity. And we remember, for example, another case back in 2016 with German paddler Soni Hönscheid that was not allowed to go to Fiji for the ISA because she did not participate in the German qualifiers. Yet the Germans did not send the German team to Fiji, and Soni still was not allowed to go. So those are kind of the things that just pop up in my memory that, like, if we want to do this, we're going to have to get this right on a national level. On the advantage side, I want to say, absolutely, if you want to have a world championship, you want to have the best of the best. It doesn't get convoluted. The level of competition is fairly high. You have the guys that finishing a tech race, say like a 10-minute tech race, 10-minute course, they finish that all within like 1 or 2 minutes, and not like one last guy finally shows up 5 minutes later and you have to wait. So there you have a higher level of competition, so it makes things much more rapid and you can run more heats, in my opinion. So that is something that I see as an advantage, and you have teams that come together, organized. It's kind of a cool uniform opening ceremony kind of thing. So that is for me clearly an advantage, that you have the best of the best are qualifying and others are not. But it's not the end of the story. I personally think there should be a way to marry those two kind of concepts together. We have top level athletes that are competing in a lot of races and they're traveling around. Those people should be able to automatically qualify to whatever the accepted world championship is. And then you have people that are local heroes that are really good on a local level, but they don't have the budget and the time to travel to go compete against the top level people. So there is kind of like there's kind of like two groups that I would like to bring together. And if you want to qualify, some top athletes, maybe they have a travel schedule and they don't have time to go back and go for qualify in their country. Maybe they're like the best already anyways, undisputed, wins all the top races. So why go back to your country? Your country should be then just giving you a wild card. And the international organization should hold and qualify top athletes out of some qualified races that are mutually agreed upon, that some high stake SUP races are the qualifiers. So not everybody can travel to all these races. So then the people that are the local paddlers from underneath, they should then also be able to qualify themselves through a national championships. So you keep spots for one group and you let another group of people also to qualify into this from underneath. And maybe that's going to be then their highlight of the year, to paddle against the best of the best. But Mike, what about the 40-year-old plus female SUP world champion? She can't now not go because she can't compete against those 25-year-olds and those 18-year-olds, and she's going to be left out. She's going to be all sad. What about the 50-year-old plus 14-foot long distance guy that is so enthusiastic and is waiting for this world championship to also go? It's a very, very, very tricky question. It's a very tricky question with inclusiveness. And I think as of right now, I am thinking that it would be very feasible to bring those people in. Number one, those are actually the people that are driving your market. It's not the 18-year-old that gets already a deal with a company. It is actually the 40 and the 50-year-old working guy that makes enough money that is buying for him and maybe for his family a board and is maybe ambitious about all of that. So that is one major thing that we have to think about it. This group of people, it might be the one that is actually driving your market there. That is the one that is actually your customer, that allows the brand to give an 18-year-old up-and-coming racer a free board. So I'd say at this point, we definitely should include that group, but with the same system, not just everybody. I think just like have them also run through a qualification, and then maybe to bring things a little down and narrow the field a little bit. We have to be careful, and this is going to be this is a very tight rope we're walking here. There's a lot of people out there that are super enthused about competitive SUP paddling that are in a certain age group that cannot compete with the likes of Connors and Fionas, but they cannot compete, but they also want to kind of have some sort of recognition. They're like, oh, they're the ones that actually, in my opinion, from my latest observation, they're the ones that are the most stoked. I see this, it's very competitive up there. So we have to find a way to include them as well. And if we marry those two systems, maybe we can find a common ground there. But that decision is not up to me. That decision is up to actually maybe to the paddlers themselves. Paddlers themselves maybe should organize themselves and say, like, you know what, enough is enough. We want it this way, and we are gonna now decide what are we sanctioning and what not, and have kind of like a paddlers union. And hey, maybe that's a topic for the next video. As far as this goes, those are my 5 cents. Now let's debate on. And of course, we'll see you in the next video.